In one of our previous videos, we talked about things that you can do if you want to dilate faster during labor. However, in this video, we are going to share with you the 7 things that you should actually avoid if you want to dilate faster during labor and to speed up labor.
Right, and then at the end of this video, we are also going to tell you why continuous monitoring of your baby during labor might not only slow down the labor progress, it also seems to do more harm than good.
Yes, this is Natalie, a pregnancy and birth consultant and TCM therapist.
And that's Matthias, a researcher and science geek.
And we love helping mummies and their babies naturally and science-based. So let's go through our list.
When you are in labor, 2 things are going to happen. First of all, your baby has to find a way to move through your pelvis and to descend in your pelvis. And second, your cervix needs to dilate to 10 centimeters so that your baby can move from your uterus into your vagina.
Yes, during that stage of labor, which is the first stage of labor when you are not yet pushing, your body makes use of the force that is being produced by your contractions to accomplish both your dilation and your baby's descent.
Right.
And as long as you are in a lying position, all that force has to come from your contractions only. However, when you are in an upright position, you make use of an additional force, namely gravity. And together with the force of your contractions, gravity can speed up the descent of your baby, which ultimately helps you dilate faster.
Right, but just that you know, you don't have to avoid a lying position throughout your whole labor, okay?
Yeah.
If lying on your back every now and then helps you relax, then you should absolutely do it.
Finding a way through your pelvis is not an easy task for your baby for several reasons. For example, the pelvic inlet where the baby enters the pelvis has a different shape than the pelvic outlet where the baby leaves the pelvis. And so your baby's head cannot leave your pelvis in the same position than it did when it entered the pelvis. Your baby needs to constantly adjust the position of the head based on where baby currently lies in your pelvis.
Now, if you remain in the same position throughout labor, and it does not necessarily have to be a lying position, okay? Then you make it very difficult for your baby to constantly adjust the position, in particular the position of your baby's head in your pelvis. Moreover, if you do, your blood circulation to your uterus may decrease, which could lead to less effective contractions.
Yes, but if you keep active, if you frequently change your position and adopt different labor positions throughout labor, then you make it easier for your baby to move through your pelvis, which can help speed up the whole labor process. By the way, we are currently preparing a kind of mini birthing course in which we are going to talk more about how exactly a baby moves through the pelvis.
Right.
Unfortunately, though, it has taken us a bit longer than expected, right? Because there's so much going on right now. However, if it is already online by the time you watch this video, then you would now see a pop-up at the top of your video screen and or a link in the description below this video. If it is online, we still recommend watching this video till the end first, because it includes lots of information which is relevant to better understand our birthing course.
If you're not prepared for a contraction, then the most natural way to respond to it is by tensing up. In other words, you tense your muscles, you raise your shoulders, you move your shoulder blades together, and you arch your back away from the pressure in your pelvis.
Yes, the problem is that when you do that, you do not only change the angle for your baby in the pelvis, which makes it more difficult for your baby to descend.
Right.
Another, probably even bigger problem of tensing up is that your breathing changes. It's no longer that rhythmic, slow breathing that helps keep your body relaxed during a contraction, and which also makes sure that both your uterus and your baby receive enough oxygen during a contraction. In a posture like this, relaxed breathing is just not possible, right? And this can considerably slow down labor progress.
Right. That's why it is so important that you keep your shoulders relaxed during a contraction by dropping them, and to keep those shoulder blades apart instead of together. Relax your forehead and your jawbone. And the best way to practice this before you go into labor is together with correct breathing. Breathing is really the key here, which makes things so much easier for you during labor.
Yeah.
And because of that, we are going to explain in detail how correct breathing works in our mini birthing course.
Right.
So if it is already online, then watch it right after watching this video.
When you have contractions, you often don't feel that your bladder is full. And because of that, we tell women to empty their bladder at least every hour if possible. This is really important because a full bladder makes it very, very difficult for your baby to descend. And it's easy to see why, right? If you look into a female pelvis, then we can see that the bladder is located right here at the front, right behind the pubis symphysis. And behind the bladder, there is the uterus. And as you can probably also see, that woman here on the picture is currently not pregnant, right? Because otherwise, the uterus would be much bigger and it would extend upwards.
Now, when your baby moves through your pelvis, then your baby has to share the available space with your bladder.
Yeah.
A female bladder has the capacity of about 400 to 600 milliliters. This bag here is filled with about 500 milliliters of water. And so if you imagine this bag together with your baby in your pelvis, then you probably understand why a full bladder can considerably slow down the descent of your baby and therefore slow down the progress in labor, right?
If we have a closer look at what's inside of a pelvis, then we can also see that there is another organ at the back of the pelvis, which is your colon. And so if you haven't been able to empty your bowels before labor, then similar to a full bladder, your colon could take more space in your pelvis than necessary, obviously making it more difficult for your baby to descend, right? Now, luckily, nature is a wonderful thing. And so nature normally gets rid of the problem by itself. Meaning that very often women experience diarrhea before or at the beginning of labor, which helps to empty their bowels.
Right, but sometimes this does not happen, or maybe you had to take iron tablets during your pregnancy, which very often leads to constipation.
Yeah.
And because of that, many midwives recommend an enema before or at the beginning of labor to empty your bowels and to make more space for your baby in your pelvis. Stress in labor can be the result of many things. It can be fear, it can be embarrassment, it can also be anger, or maybe there is just so much action going on around you. All of that can interfere with the labor progress because the body releases hormones in response to stress. And these hormones could slow down labor contractions.
Yeah. Now, of course, it is easier to say that you should avoid stress than to actually do it, right? And it is not easy to give advice on what exactly you should do if you experience stress during labor because it very much depends on the exact causes of that stress.
Right.
For example, if it is fear, it could help if you address those fears with your healthcare provider to get the reassurance. Maybe your birth partner gets your goat, and it does happen sometimes, right? Recently, a woman told us that her partner was watching a football game on the phone at the birth center while she was in active labor. And while some of us may find this funny, it was certainly not funny for her because that anger had an impact on her contractions. And so if something like this happens to you, hey, don't hesitate to tell your birth partner to leave the room. I mean, they're supposed to be supportive, right?
Right. In general, though, the universal tool to help you with any kind of stress during labor is your breathing. It can not only help you relax during labor and help you reduce stress hormones, it can also increase the oxygen supply to your baby and to your uterus, which can help speed up things in labor. There is one thing that we recommend to all women, and that's having a birth partner by your side during labor.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not someone who is watching football while he tries to give birth to his baby.
Right.
In fact, it does not need to be the father of the baby. It could also be a doula or your mother, for instance.
Not your mother-in-law, though, because we could tell you stories about that too. No, just kidding. The baseline here is that it has to be a person you trust, right? And we really hear this all the time from women at the clinic, that women who don't have someone by their side during labor very often have a very hard time in labor.
Right. Now you might ask yourself, How is my birth partner supposed to help me dilate faster and to speed up labor? Well, in many ways. First of all, your birth partner can help you a lot in regards to labor pain reduction. For example, by massaging your back or by applying counter pressure against your sacrum or by applying acupressure or reflexology. In so far, a birth partner can also help you stay more relaxed during labor.
Yeah.
For example, they could breathe with you together or make you aware of a wrong posture. And we could list many more reasons why you should avoid lack of support during labor, but I think you get the point, right?
This is an interesting one, and it's actually something that an obstetrician that we personally know told us. She said that if you want to have a natural vaginal delivery and a faster labor, then you should avoid continuous electrical monitoring of your baby. And she explained to us that there is no scientific evidence that continuous monitoring provides a safer birth experience than if you just check the baby's heartbeat intermittently during labor.
Moreover, she told us that apparently women whose babies are continuously monitored during labor seem to be at a higher risk of unnecessary medical interventions and C-sections. Yeah. And indeed, many scientific studies confirm just that.
Yeah, some scientists even level criticism at other scientists who keep recommending ongoing electrical fetal monitoring. We will link to some of these articles in the description below this video. So that's that.
Right. Another problem with ongoing fetal monitoring is that women are often confined to bed and are very restricted in how they can move. And that makes it, of course, much more difficult to adopt different positions during labor, which again can slow down labor progress. Yeah. Luckily though, if you need continuous fetal monitoring, they now offer wireless fetal monitoring in most modern hospitals, which allow you to walk around and adopt different labor positions. Yeah. And if that is not available in your hospital, then at least try to stand up and walk short distances around the monitor within the range that the length of the cable allows you to.
Okay, so those were the 7 things that you should avoid in order to speed up the first stage of labor.
Right. Keep in mind though, correct breathing is the key to speed up labor progress.
Yeah.
Therefore, check if our mini birthing course is already online. If it is, you should find the link in the description below this video.
Yes. Also, if you have not done so already, we recommend watching our other video in which we explain 10 ways to dilate faster during labor. And since you cannot only speed up the dilation phase but also the pushing phase, we also recommend watching our other video in which we explain what you need to do in order to have an easier and faster delivery of your baby.
Right, if you have found this video helpful, we would be super grateful if you could leave us a like or even a comment in the comment section below.
Yes, and for more useful tips and tools on pregnancy and baby related topics, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell.